Doug approached me about speaking frankly on the topic that was assigned to me, our discussion revolved around the commercialization of foundations or the corporatization of philanthropy. Now, I'm not sure how much those words are really used in our sector and whether they're accurate, but to me, both of them carry a negative connotation. And it also reminded me very much to be mindful of the fact that some of our colleagues in this room might be described by some of these terms, and also some of them are also very faithful and wonderful sponsors of this conference. So I suspect also that none of them would use those types of terms willingly. So when I started to noodle on what I might say, I thought it was natural to reflect on the fundamental nature of philanthropy. And of course, you've all heard it many times before, the word derives from the Greek and means the love of humanity. You may be amused to learn that recently I had cause to enter into a very detailed understanding of the myth of Prometheus. Now, the myth of Prometheus is where the word philanthropy first occurs, or whatever the Greek word is from it. Now, Prometheus is the god who disobeyed Zeus and took pity on the human race, whom he loved in all its failings. So Prometheus stole and gave to humans the fire of the gods, which was freedom of thought, memory, and so on, thus thwarting Zeus from his intended do-over. So my son has a very large, and I mean very large, tattoo of Prometheus on his thigh. So go figure. But I digress. So fundamental to the concept are two things: the desire to promote the welfare of others and the expression of that desire by the generous donation of funds. I also reflected on the many conversations I've had with my planner friends over the years where I express my admiration of their skill and commitment to developing relationships with donors, almost to a woman, and I do use that gender advisedly, although not to dismiss of my male chums. They tell me that they absolutely love working with donors and it's enormously satisfying to them. So what to make of that? It sounds to me like a calling. So, if it makes sense to think of planners as having a calling, it's also, I suggest, that fundamental basis for the public's perception that all philanthropic endeavors should also be so, and that the cost of administration of charities should fall from heaven like manna, and that their generosity does not extend to those who actually assist them in carrying out their philanthropy. So I realize that the real topic that I'm talking about is perhaps, is philanthropy required to have a soul? Or maybe, whether or not it's required, is it better to have a soul? And then, can we presume that a business or a business person, like maybe a lawyer, does not have a soul, or perhaps have the correct motivation? Is this not the crux of the concern and the criticism regarding the rise of business and business analysis principles in relation to charities and charitable giving? Then let's consider the media furor surrounding the gift made by Priscilla Chan and Mark Zuckerberg. An article I read at the time included the word philanthrocapitalism and suggested that real charities thought that Zuckerberg, with his new ideas, his new approaches, which may or may not work, is the problem. He should go away. What we really want is the status quo with more money. Like, just give it to us. I also noted an article recently by Edward Lookback which referenced the Clinton Foundation as nonprofit profiteering, which may, of course, have greater significance in another realm, but again, I digress. So, is there then a spectrum of philanthropy where some is good and some is bad? Is it necessary not only to be good and not just do good? And who gets to decide what being good means? Is there something fundamentally unphilanthropic about a financial institution creating a charitable foundation, as opposed to, for example, the Vancouver Foundation's founding narrative of Secretary Alice McKay saving her $1,000 mite in 1943 and donating to help homeless women trapped in the cycle of poverty? It's a lot of questions. From my perspective, it's not about the size of the foundation's endowment, although, like Donald Trump, I'm sure it's not small. Oh, yes, I went there. or the largest gift in an organization's history, or market share, or competing for that major gift, providing the best technical solution, establishing a social enterprise, having the sexiest donor interface technology. And it's not about whether or not there's a level playing field with a technology upstart side-by-side foundation or a financial institution's captive foundation. I don't know if certain acts of philanthropy are good or bad, but surely the best is when a donor acts with an open heart and the recipient receives and applies the gift in that spirit. So what is an open heart, or perhaps philanthropic soul? Certainly, it's the plumber and successful businessman Paul Myers donating $25 million out of the blue to Lionsgate Hospital Foundation. It's also, I would argue, Andrew Carnegie, the rapacious industrialist, at one time the richest man in the US, who donated sufficient funds to fund over 2,000 public libraries in North America, one of which sits in Vancouver, and I don't know about anywhere else. It is Alice McKay and those like her, those surprising gifts from estates of individuals who have no obvious affiliation with the recipient charity. So now, that's not to say that those who create donor-advised funds or think they're making a deposit in a foundation or who structure a complex planned gift to secure a sizable tax credit have no heart. I'm just hopeful that, like the Grinch that stole Christmas, we, through all our efforts in all our different realms, might be able to make that donor's heart and our own hearts grow just a few sizes larger and see the bigger picture of humanity's great need. Thanks.